been at through as long as the distributing solar to 70 years of business. Yeah, sorry, we got a quorum. Let's go. So anyway, we're going to do
It's the agenda, and then there is an agenda. Do you have an agenda? You're welcome.
What button is that? Okay. All right, good. Where is?
It's okay. Yep. You're welcome.
so. Work session 3 to 7. We have 4 hours working.
Nope.
Are we good? Okay. All right. All right, so I'd like to call the Legislative Committee to order and welcome everybody here, that's pretty much everybody on the entire board, to discuss some of the legislative appointments that we have outlined and make some decisions on what we want to send to our legislators here in the upcoming session. So at this time, Caitlin, if you'll call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Mr. Dudley? Mr. Bowman?
Here. Okay, that's our committee. And Mr. Dalton, is there anything you want to add to the agenda?
No, sir, Mr. Bowman, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, then a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve our agenda.
Okay, and then I'll second that. And if you'll vote. Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there any old business that we need to add, Mr. Dalton?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any new business?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. So what we'll do now is go into the legislative priorities, and what I'm going to do is move from this seat. I'm going to move down to the podium. That way I can see the folks that are at the dais and entertain any questions they may have at this time.
You on? Is it on? No, it needs turning on. Is it up, fellas? Can't hear Mr. Bowman.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Test. You hear me now? You can hear me now,
Good.
as the man would say. All right, again, thank everybody for coming today. So it looks like it's just Mr. Dalton and myself, but I'm not going to hold this up and just say we are the only ones going to interchange. If you see something, you've got a packet in front of you that we need to discuss, feel free to do that, because after we're finished, I'm going to ask Mr. Shorter and Mr. Evans, when he comes in here, to take our notes and compile those into our legislative agenda. And so as you see things that need to be changed, feel free to chime in on this, and that'll save us from having to go through any further discussion later on in the day. What I've done is taken, as most of you know, I serve on 4 of those steering committees at VACO, and these are highlights that came out of those steering committees and others. And some of these are going to be applicable to us very close to home. Some are more high level, but we want to make sure that we get our legislative items in there in front of our delegates and make sure they can help carry the mail for us as we put this package together. I will say, looking back in history, this is probably the most comprehensive list of items that Pennsylvania County, has ever put together. So we're going to pare this down a little bit further, and some of these will be picked up by just VACO, some will be picked up by other counties, some will be picked up by localities that have an interest in these items here. So what we'll do is go through each one of these, we'll read them. If you want to, we'll discuss them. Recommendations, again, we'll strike through them if you don't think they're applicable to us right now, or we'll modify them at that time, and then we'll move on to the next one. So again, Mr. Shorter, are you amenable to that? Okay, good, thank you. I didn't get a chance to talk to you earlier about this. And pardon me, I've got a little runny nose going on right here, so I don't know what it is going on, but hopefully I can get through this, and we shouldn't be here more than probably 45 minutes. And the packet that I passed out at the last meeting, I know Mr. Whittle has read it, right, Murray? Yeah, you did. So I know everybody read that. A lot of the information you've got in front of you is pared down from that packet. So what we're going to do is start off with the table of contents here. The legislative program covers the following sections: the agricultural, rural affairs, community, economic and workforce development, education, environment, energy and land use, finance and elections, general government, health and human resources, and transportation. The draft steering committee positions are based on language reviewed during VACO's August meetings at the county official summits, and the additional policy statements were presented to the committees for further review at the November VACO, bless you, VACO annual conference, which is both of these I attended. So starting off, and again, are you running the PowerPoint, Kevin? Are you doing that? Oh, if I do that, I'm going to lose my place. So, yeah, let's see. Is that where we're at? Okay. Is that agriculture? I can't see it. Which one is that?
I can't hardly see it.
What is that?
That's the first page.
That's the one I want. Okay, thank you. All right, so agriculture and rural affairs. So VACO supports increasing state allocations for the farm and forest land preservation priority, including the purchase of developmental rights and the Forest Sustainability Fund. VACO supports the voluntary conservation programs and an effective statewide regulatory program for land application of biosolids, allowing local governments to monitor compliance and propose permit amendments. And VACO supports the funding and implementation of the Virginia Invasive Species Management Plan, including an amendment into the definition of noxious weeds to regulate additional invasive plants. Those items right there are ones that we voted on to approve, and you can see where some of those apply. For instance, Smith Mountain Lake on the third bullet right there would certainly be in tune to that particular one. And I've also talked to the Farm Bureau folks out there, and they are very much in support of the top two bullets there. So if you're in agreement, we can add those to our list. Okay?
Mr. Bowman.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about the lake. Is this the weeds and stuff like in Smith Mountain Lake?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
That
correct.
has been an issue. Okay.
Right.
And this would support funding for that?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, the next is predator control, technical assistance, water usage, and solid waste. So VACO urges state and federal agencies to provide farmers and producers with sufficient flexibility and access to tools for predator control to protect the livestock and crops. VACO supports increased state funding for organizations like soil and water conservation districts, planning district commissions, to provide localities with technical assistance for environmental compliance, and VACO supports water conservation, streamlining permits, and local regional control over water use, water rights division, while also opposing efforts to interfere with local flow control ordinances for solid waste. And those 3 bullets right there, any discussion on those? I think those right there are pretty standard, and I think all of our folks at Farm Bureau would support all of those. Okay. Did that change? I can't see it. I do not.
No.
It didn't. Did that go to the next page? It did now. Okay, good. All right, the next page is Community Economic and Workforce Development. So as a priority, VACO requests 100% state match funding for counties to hold necessary telecommunications infrastructure to achieve universal affordable internet access, especially in underserved areas. VACO supports the increase in federal and state funding and incentives to help localities create and sustain affordable and workforce housing. And they also support economic development policies that bolster local and regional efforts by expanding state funding, streamlining grant application, and supporting regional economic development organization. So those 3 bullets right there, again, I think I support those. I think those are good bullets. Those are things that we need to support for economic development. Yes, sir.
Hey, Ken, what do they consider affordable housing?
It's pretty much the term that they use, but anything that you can afford is affordable housing. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It's not. It's a.
That's a pretty good answer, man. That'd be something like I would do. You know?
Yeah, it's not a. I mean, we've talked about 30 years ago. Affordable housing was probably in the neighborhood of less than $100,000. Today, if you can afford $400,000, then that's affordable.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it really is. They put that term in there, and it really. I think they could just take it out.
Right. Well,
But that's what they
I
use.
don't know what they consider affordable housing.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Okay, sure. Any other questions on those? Yes, sir.
Mr. Bowman, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate your presentation. One thing that I would ask the legislative committee is to do a little bit of research. The state of Colorado has a pilot program that's going on with their current community colleges. And the way it works is this, and I think Pennsylvania County could benefit from a program such as, with the workforce development end of it, we have a certain percentage of students graduating from our high schools here in the county, but there are some that actually drop through the cracks. I don't know the exact ratio, but let's just say 86, 87% of all the students in the county graduate. Then you have somewhere in the neighborhood of 13, 14% of students that don't have access or cannot afford a GED. So that slice of the community kind of gets left behind. What Colorado is doing is they are offering, and they've partnered with their community colleges, and they're offering GEDs for $5. That's, I'm sorry, excuse me, I think it's $50. And that will provide them with the education, and it's flexible hours. They can go after hours or on Saturdays to, get up to speed and get that GED, which will better put them in a position to get a certificate and become more employable. But that's something I think that we should look into.
Okay. All right. Very good. I was going to skip down to education. I think that's probably where that'll fall into also. So very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Any other comments on any of that? Okay. All
I
right.
agree with it.
Yep.
Yes, sir. That's a good point.
All right. So impacts of facilities, on-site sewer program, and workforce-ready students. So VACO supports the Virginia Department of Health maintaining an on-site sewage program that protects public health, but also supports VDH continuing to provide direct services if the private sector cannot offer timely and affordable services. And VACO supports curriculum changes and funding to increase the number of students earning workforce-ready credits, including integrating career and technical education earlier and expanding programs like the Virginia Jobs Investment Program. So that, what you're talking there may be a bullet right under that. So it's a good point. Okay, any other discussion on those? Good. Okay. All right, we'll move down to education. So VACO's priority is full state funding for public education, including the standards of quality, capital support, and teacher salaries without reducing funding for other core services. VACO supports additional state funding options for capital and school construction costs such as expanding dedicated local sales and use tax authority. VACO also supports local authority to choose the selection process for school board members and to establish charter schools. VACO supports funding the Federal Bureau of Investigation's record of arrest and prosecution back service by the state to ensure full access for all localities and school divisions. VACO supports calculating salary and SOQ formula cost using the division average and replacing the current cost of competing adjustment with a more accurate Virginia cost of labor index. VACO supports the current practice where all year-end funds appropriated by the locality to school divisions revert to the locality, maintaining the governing body's discretion for reallocation. And VACO urges General Assembly to fund strategies addressing the teacher shortage, including targeted approaches for critical need areas, reducing burdens on the workforce, and funding programs to reduce student debt. Those bullets right there, I know some of those are probably discussion bullets. If you want to feel free to pull one of them out, any of them out, or all of them to talk about them. So, Mr. Dalton.
I'd like to ask you something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
good. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Murray.
look,
Mr.
what
Whittle.
is the SOQ formula? What is that? Right there in the, at the fifth point down.
It's the formula they use to factor the cost. I don't know the exact, what they ask of Houston, but it's,
Okay.
yeah, I can make up something for SOQ, but actually it's what they use. It's the formula they use in order to come up with their cost.
And does, VACO, they say they support, are they putting money into all these,
No.
programs that you're looking at?
No, VACO's not. VACO is supporting these. They're pushing these just like we're going to push them to the delegates, to the delegation. Okay, the elected officials at the state level.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to do is we want to, what happens here is we want to try to pull as many people together as possible to push legislation forward, because the more you have, the better chance you have of getting it through. So they're asking for us to partner up with them and make this part of our legislative agenda also, is so they can move it forward.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sure. Yes, sir.
Mr. Bowman.
Yes, sir.
Also, to kind of piggyback on Mr. Whittle over there, we're getting ready to work on the budget, and one of the largest portions of our local budget is going to be the school systems, okay? So based on the current level of current situation in the state of Virginia, with Northern Virginia losing a lot of jobs due to federal layoffs, Northern Virginia was supplying a certain portion of the funding to rural communities for schools. That being said, they no longer have that funding, so now it's going to put downward pressure on not only Pittsylvania County, but all rural counties to come up with the funding for education or for our public school system. One of the things I think I would add to our agenda personally is we need to try to advocate for the change in the metrics in terms of how they figure out what monies we receive from the state without matching funds on the local front. Because right now it's all based on your local composite index or our ability to pay. So, I mean, it's one thing to go to the state and ask them for more money, and they say, okay, we'll give you more money, but it winds up costing our taxpayers additional money just to get the money, so it's not really a win-win situation. So I think what needs to happen at the local level or at the state level is that formula that they use, that particular matrix in terms of how they calculate what they're going to give each community or each county, that needs to be changed to, because the current system is old or draconian, if I may use such a term. But, otherwise, we're going to be staring down the barrel of serious shortfalls in our budgets locally.
Absolutely. It's a very good point, because we ran across this, when I came on a couple of years ago, and we all tried to figure this formula out. And I dare say, and I think I mentioned it back then, a PhD couldn't figure this thing out. Only the people that work this thing on a daily or a regular basis understand how these formulas work. They're very cumbersome, and it's something that needs to be simplified, and, something that we could work with. I agree with you on that.
Well, Mr. Bowman, if I may, not only simplifying that matrix, but if we get additional money from the state level, we do not want to be penalized by having to match locally.
Yeah.
That's what I want to advocate.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. That's right.
Okay. All right, good. Very good. Any other comments on that? We're good? Okay.
Good.
All right, so the next is the environment, energy, and land use. Okay. So VACO supports energy policies that reduce greenhouse gas emission using diverse technologies, solar, wind, nuclear, without compromising reliable and affordable electricity, while also allowing for responsible coal and natural gas extraction. A core priority is sufficient and sustained financial and technical assistance to counties for improving water quality and meeting all federal and state pollution reduction standards. VACO also supports state funding to enable local governments to fully comply with stormwater standards, including initiatives that clarify and modernize regulations and permitting processes. VACO also supports strengthening and expanding tree replacement and conservation statutes to include all localities in Virginia, while providing greater flexibility to achieve specific local goals. And finally, VACO supports appropriations adequate to fully fund state-mandated water supply plans and initiatives to reduce high chloride concentrations in Virginia's aquifers. Any comments on that?
Yeah, Mr. Bowman, we
Yes,
want
sir.
to make sure that I do support that the localities have control of permitting for solar farms, anything like that. Because I know at one time the state wanted to take control of that. And I do not agree with that. I mean, I think we need to make sure each locality has that authority.
It's down in the,
And it's probably coming back up.
It's in the next.
It's probably coming back up this
it's in
year.
the next section here.
Okay, all right,
Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry. All
You're
right.
good, you're reading ahead,
Okay.
and I like it.
All right, okay.
Any other comments on any of those, on the environment, energy, and land use?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On the tree replacement, are you talking about when people clear cut land?
Which one is that?
That is number,
Which bullet?
4.
4, okay. Oh, yes, okay.
So they clear cutting land and they replant it for another, 15 years. Is that what that is basically doing?
Actually, that's, it's left up now to the landowners whether they want to do that or not. It gives them an option. And so what they're asking for here is that it become a requirement to go in and do that. And so to do when you go out and do clear cut.
All right, thank you.
And that's tree harvesting. That's not going in and cleaning up, taking them out and then developing the land. Does that make sense? I mean, if you're just going in and logging,
Yeah.
they're asking for you to come back and replace.
If you're going to keep
Do
it
they
in
help pay
timber.
for that?
I'm sorry.
Do they help pay for that? Sorry.
It wasn't covered here, but I would imagine the forestry department would help that. I know they have a number of places throughout the Commonwealth that you can go get seedlings,
Yeah.
from them and take them back and replace what you've cut,
Mr. Bowman,
but I'm not sure.
excuse me.
Yes, sir.
To answer your question, yes, sir, there is a program out there, and it's part of the conservation program. And I think that's a federal program wherein they will help subsidize replanting those pine seedlings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, good, very good. Okay. Energy and land use positions. VACO opposes any state-mandated exemptions on local property taxes for energy generating and storage equipment. VACO supports maintaining local authority to address all impacts and choices associated with utility-scale installations of solar power, wind farm, and energy storage facilities. And VACO supports maintaining and expanding local authority to plan and regulate land use and opposes legislation that weakens these key local responsibilities, including efforts to limit local regulation of home-based businesses and event spaces. Good?
That's good, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other comments on those? Okay, good. All right, next is finance and elections. VACO's priority is preserving the authority of county governments to collect the revenues necessary to provide local public services. VACO supports a more balanced state-local funding partnership and election administration, advocating for state support in areas like funding for voting equipment, register cost, and election security. And VACO supports the Commonwealth meeting its obligations to fund appropriate staffing and competitive salaries for the state's justice system, including clerks, magistrates, and district court employees. Any discussion on those three right there before we flip the page, because there's a continuance? Okay?
I'm good.
Good?
Yeah, I got a question. Keith.
Yes, sir.
Look, on the last one, is that talking about your, police?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is that talking about the police and police like that? If they're not fully, staffed, is that affect them?
No, there's another section on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on the next page, funding for state mandated positions in jails. I think this is where you're going, Murray.
Okay.
VACO supports flexibility in the use of state funds for compensating constitutional officers and state-supported local employees and urges funding levels that reflect the true cost of compensation increases across the entire local workforce. And maybe with this whole group here, we just take them one at a time. Are we good with that? Good with that one? Okay. VACO supports a more robust state-local partnership in funding local and regional jails, including continued efforts to increase jail per diem rates to better represent the actual cost of housing inmates. Okay. VACO supports expanded flexibility to cover the medical cost of inmates through Medicaid and sufficient state funding for local regional jails to meet new health care standards, including behavioral health care. Okay. VACO supports reinstating state payments in lieu of taxes to counties to mitigate the impacts of state correctional and behavioral health care facilities and county revenue. VACO opposes any further diversion of communication, sale, and use tax trust fund dollars beyond the uses already specified in statute, insisting these revenues remain in trust for localities. Any proposals to change the local personal property tax on motor vehicles must provide replacement revenue that keeps individual counties whole and is structured to eliminate capping or elimination over time. VACO supports providing localities with the ability to decide whether to maintain property tax exemptions granted by the General Assembly prior to the 2002 constitutional amendment. And VACO strongly advocates for the state to maintain and its commitment to replacing local revenue losses associated with the elimination of the state sales tax on food for human consumption and essential personal hygiene products. So any discussion on those? They're pretty straightforward on that. Good. Okay, we'll move down to general government. VACO supports the relaxation of the Dillon Rule by enhancing local authority and autonomy on matters such as land use, revenue measures, and procurement. VACO opposes unfunded mandates and the shifting of fiscal responsibility from the state to localities. Any mandated legislation with local costs should be fully borne by the Commonwealth and include a sunset clause if funding is not provided. VACO opposes any effort to mandate collective bargaining for public employees. Any discussion on that? Good. Okay. General government. Again, VACO supports dedicated state and federal funding for local governments to acquire and maintain advanced cybersecurity to protect vital systems and sensitive data. VACO supports increasing interoperability and the Commonwealth's transition to next-gen 911 without unfairly burdening localities financially or otherwise. Okay, VACO supports legislation to streamline required newspaper advertising for public notices and procurement, including giving localities the option to use electronic notification alternatives. Okay. VACO opposes any federal or state regulatory action, such as the proposal OSHA rules change to fire brigade standards that hinder the provision of emergency services by increasing cost or deterring recruitment. Okay. VACO opposes any substantive change in local government's present defense of qualified immunity and sovereign immunity and opposes bringing counties under the Virginia Tort Claims Act. VACO supports increasing state assistance for police departments through 599 to localities to equalize funding between counties with sheriff's departments and those with police departments. Fire and EMS. And these last three bullets here, they were not added by VACO because this came out of the steering committee that I participated in, and I felt pretty strong about putting these in here. So fire and EMS, a strong support for moving fire and EMS recruitment, retention, and funding to a top legislative priority status. There was agreement to create an additional separate platform section prioritizing fire and EMS funding. Establish a subcommittee or task force to develop and coordinate advocacy strategies year-round. Encourage local supervisors to elevate fire and EMS funding as a county-level priority and share local challenges at the state level. And continue pressing the state for more equitable cost sharing and support. There was a lot of discussion that took place in the steering committee on this particular topic. It was not even on the agenda, but when it started, they started talking, everybody was on board with that. So I felt like that was something that we needed to add to this. So any questions on any of those? Yes,
Mr. Bowman.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you for adding this because I'd made a note. That's your second highest when you start working on the budget from the county. Okay, is going to be fire and rescue. And, I guess we need to have everyone in the community understand, that fire trucks now, you can't even buy them for under, $1 million, and that's without all the frills, bells, and whistles. Ambulances have gone up exponentially as well. Now, Delegate Phillips had a good idea in terms of, I think he had championed the bill to put aside money, part of the taxes that are collected on a state level to be returned to localities, a certain percentage of it earmarked for fire rescue, that sort of thing. So I want to totally advocate for, a 50% cost sharing arrangement between the county and the state as far as funding our fire department. And I don't think that's too much to ask, but, we'll never know unless we ask for it.
Exactly right.
I agree.
Exactly right.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Health and Human Services. VACO prioritizes transparent state policies and funding to ensure at-risk families have access to high-quality services, advocating for full funding for state-mandated human services and necessary program flexibility for localities. VACO supports the resources necessary for behavioral health, mental health facilities to ensure the health and safety of residents and staff, including appropriate staff qualifications, training, and compensation. In light of changes to SNAP and Medicaid, VACO supports the full funding necessary to replace the current benefits management IT system and additional state technical support to reduce Virginia's SNAP error rate. And since the budget has been, the bill has been brought back, I haven't heard anything about this. I don't know if people are getting their SNAP or Medicaid's being affected or anything anymore. For 30-some days there, that was all you heard. Now you don't hear anything. So I wouldn't mind having, an update from DSS, maybe letting us know what's going on over there. If things are back on track and they're doing okay. So,
Mr. Bowman, I think,
yes.
based on what I'm hearing is they're receiving their SNAP benefits, but, as well as I do, we're facing or staring down the barrel of another government shutdown.
Yeah, I know.
So there's still a great deal of uncertainty out there.
That's right. That's very right. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Next is transportation. VACO is committed to advocating for a robust and sustainable transportation funding framework that addresses the evolving needs of communities, including secondary roads and unpaved roads. VACO supports simplifying the smart scale process and maintaining transit capital state match rates. VACO is committed to the protection of local government authority to regulate land use, which must be recognized by VDOT and the CTB while evaluating transportation plans. VACO supports additional state and federal funding for the maintenance and expansion of airports to foster regional economic development. Anything on those before we flip the page? Yes, sir, go ahead.
For the unpaved roads and things like that, what do you say? What did they say? Exactly what did they say? For the unpaved roads, help on the roads, are they saying they want to find a way to fund getting those paved?
They have a rural roads program now, but it's not anything that's enforced, if you will. So VACO is saying there are a lot more of those rural roads out there than people imagine. And they would like to see more involvement in getting those roads upgraded, if not to the the hard surface, the asphalt, concrete, whatever, at least getting them up to the standard of VDOT standard for highways, and so they're maintained properly. Because there are a number of them in our county that need that attention, and so that's what they're trying to address here. Sure, absolutely. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Bowman, I have spoken with Eric Phillips as well as Madison Whittle about the rural roads, and what I'd like to see the state do is change the funding formula, even if they have to set aside that 6-year plan, and give the localities the ability to take care of roads that's been brought to our attention, some of which are 30 years old. And it's not fair how certain roads get approved ahead of roads that's been in the shadows for ages. And you know as well as I do that Northern Virginia gets a tremendous piece of this pie as far as paving highways. And I would like to see the state come up with a formula to give the localities more of the ability to take care of the roads that need to be addressed. And this business about expecting landowners to bring roads up to the state standard is ridiculous, and it'll never happen. There's one road in my district in particular, it's 32 houses, and a well-known contractor said it would cost the residents in excess of $100,000 to bring it up to state standards. That ain't fair. We need to change it.
I agree. I totally agree with you. Yeah, we end up, and I don't know where it starts, but when we started approving permits for developers to go in and build houses on land, part of that should be in that permitting process. And right off the bat, there should be an agreement that these roads that go into these developments are brought up to VDOT standards. No ifs, ands, or buts, because anybody that buys a house after that, they don't know what that agreement was. And when they start seeing potholes and things like that happening in those roads, they come straight to the county because that's all they know. And so we can't do anything about it, and VDOT won't do anything about it. So this, I think, is a good bullet, and I think it's a great point. So,
But I did talk to a couple of VDOT officials that said that they would welcome that if the state on the legislative level would change it, that they'd
Good.
welcome that. It'd take a lot of work off them to
Right.
where a contractor could be chosen out of a selection of 3 and just said, here, this is the amount of money, fix it.
yeah, I think as we go through this process, I think there's a few things that are popping up here that should be priorities. Move to the top of the list. We can continue to add others in there, but I think separating out our priorities, make those our priorities, and then we'll add the rest of this in there. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bowman, thank you. To Mr. Ingram's point, I don't see the logistics being as big an issue as the funding. The state really needs to come off the money. And the reason I say that is, these people, whether they live on a state-maintained road or not, the county still expects them to pay their personal property taxes on their houses and that sort of thing. They do not get a pass on state taxes, and they certainly don't get a pass on their federal income taxes. I think we should kind of bubble that up and also maybe get Mr. Winstead from down in Lynchburg and Miss Linda Green, that they're part of that Department of Transportation panel.
Right.
That maybe can help us push that a little bit.
I agree. Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Darrell?
No,
got
I'm
anything?
good. Yeah.
Okay,
I know
good.
funding is an issue.
Good discussion. Good, very good. On the next page, VACO opposes legislation or administrative initiatives that would transfer the responsibility for the construction, maintenance, or operation of new and existing roads to counties. And there you go. So yeah, we don't want the roads, we don't want responsibility for those. VACO supports efforts by the Commonwealth to expand sustainable passenger commuter rail service, including the Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative to currently unserved areas. VACO supports the restoration of state recordation tax revenues distributed to counties and cities for use in transportation on public education purposes. And VACO opposes any efforts to divert existing dedicated regional transportation revenues to areas and purposes outside of that region unless additional funding sources are provided to hold such funding harmless. Any questions on any of those? All right, gentlemen, that's it with VACO. Now I'm going to shift over to the West Piedmont Planning District Commission. Not as long, okay? I'm sitting on the executive committee for West Piedmont Planning. This is what they came up with at the last meeting, which was just a week ago. We discussed these. They're not as detailed. So West Piedmont is pushing for stronger financial backing and support to help localities bounce back and thrive. They want to avoid unfunded mandates and constrain local governments, and are focused on sustainable funding for children's services. Plus, they're all about boosting state funding for regional planning, education standards, career training, economic development, and affordable housing. There's that word, Mr. Whittle, that affordable housing thing. So, localities at a glance. The West Piedmont Planning District Commission serves Franklin County, population 54,000, Henry County, population 48, Patrick County, population 16. The largest county by area is Pittsylvania County, 969 square miles population, almost 59,000, with an FY26 operating budget of $239 million. Excuse me. The city of Danville has the highest fiscal year 26 operating budget with $384 million, and the highest real estate tax rate at 83 cents per hundred of assessed value. Locals legislators representing the West Piedmont Planning. The Senate of Virginia is represented by Bill Stanley, District 7, and Tammy Mulcahy, District 9. Members of the House of Delegates include Delegate Davis, Will Davis, District 39, Ren Williams, District 47, Eric Phillips, District 48, Madison Whittle, District 49, and Eric Zier, District 51. The Regional Legislative Program for 2026, West Piedmont Planning urges the Commonwealth to continue providing creative and flexible financial support to address new challenges and restore local economies. The organization opposes any proposals that would impose new unfunded or underfunded mandates on local governments, and West Piedmont supports the creation of a sustainable approach for funding and delivery of services under the Children's Services Act to control rising local government cost. Funding revenue and taxation. The West Piedmont Planning supports increasing state funding to $250,000 annually for each of the Commonwealth's 21 planning districts to further their mission and provide services that result in significant return on investment. Excuse me. Education. West Piedmont supports the state fully funding the standards of quality recommended by the State Board of Education and the standards of accreditation. Mr. Will, that was SOQ, Standards of Quality. You asked earlier what that stood for?
What's that?
That SOQ, that's standards of quality.
Thank
You asked about that. And the organization supports expanded funding for state-of-the-art career and technical education to produce workforce-ready students and graduates. Economic development. West Piedmont supports federal and state funding for infrastructure and industrial site improvements to enhance the tiered ranking of industrial sites in the region. The General Assembly is encouraged to develop new economic development incentives to allow the region to compete with neighboring states like North Carolina, which offers more aggressive incentive packages. Housing. West Piedmont Planning supports maintaining and expanding federal and state funding and appropriate incentives to foster affordable housing development, including workforce housing. Broadband. West Piedmont advocates for continued state support and funding for broadband projects, including economic incentives and policies facilitating distribution, adoption, and affordability. Law enforcement funding. West Piedmont advocates for continued state funding for school resource officers and public school systems as a vital public safety measure. The organization advocates for adequate state funding support for local law enforcement personnel to enable localities to retain experienced staff. Transportation. West Piedmont supports sustainable state funding for smart scale and other programs necessary for critical long-term transportation investments to facilitate economic prosperity in the West Piedmont region. And the West Piedmont encourages an increase in transportation funding specifically for rural counties. Local authority. The West Piedmont supports maintaining and expanding local authority to plan and regulate land use and opposes any legislation that weakens these key local responsibilities. Natural resources. West Piedmont supports increased funding to plan for and mitigate natural disasters, including flood preparedness, stormwater infrastructure, and dam maintenance. And then the last bullet is the organization supports increased funding for water supply planning to ensure sustainable, safe, and reliable water sources across the Commonwealth. And gentlemen, that's all I have, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that anybody has. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. I want to get back to a question that Mr. Whittle asked, and we kind of glossed over it. In terms of, what is affordable housing. So according to HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, they say affordable housing is calculated on 30% of the gross income for housing costs, including utilities of any locality. Okay? So, and if they can't arrive at that, then the second definition is keeping housing costs below 30% of the median income. All right, so that's what affordable housing is supposed to be. So, I didn't want people to go with, the $400,000 analogy because that is not where our median income is. And we certainly, want the public to kind of have their finger on the pulse a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
I appreciate that. No, I know there's a formula for that. That's what the federal government has come up and said, okay, 30% of this goes to your housing. And now, if you make $1,000, a month or whatever that is, you're looking at what, $250, $300? That's not going to get you a whole lot. So yeah, I appreciate that very much. It's very serious, out there, because people are, they're really scratching from week to week right now, trying to make things, make it to the end of the week through the housing, through the gas, through the food, child care. Telling you, it's huge expenses out there. So I appreciate that very much.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Do
Yes,
you know
sir.
what the deadline is for us to get this to the,
We should have
For
done
general
this about
session.
a month and a half ago.
Yeah, okay, so, but we can
Yeah.
extend it on
But
now.
we still have time. We
Okay.
still have time. I would recommend before Christmas that we have this put together and then get this out to those delegates that represent us that I mentioned there. Yes, sir.
Mr. Bowman, if I may, sir.
Please.
We're going to go down, I think it's in February. I think I looked at the calendar. It's like February 5th for
That's right.
Legislation Day. So we want to get it down a little ahead of us. But I don't foresee, an all-out mad rush right now because most of them are not going to, I think the swearing-in process is going to be like the 12th of January or something
That's
like
correct.
that. So that being said, we have a little bit of time, but I would get it to them no later than mid-January so as to give the staff a little bit of time to compile your wishes, sir.
Right. Yeah, the only thing I would say to that is they already start doing pre-filing of their bills before that. And so we want to make sure if they're doing bills and something on here can be included in those bills, we'd like to get that in there as early as possible because it's very hard to get it in there. I can't remember if it's a short or long session, the 45 or 60 day. I don't remember exactly.
You got the long session coming up.
Okay, so when you have crossover, it's too late to get those things in there. So, but I would say there's an urgency, but not. We don't have to, scramble and try to get it done today for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Good deal. Yes, sir. I'm good.
Any other questions from anybody? Mr. Short?
I was just going to wonder if quickly, if it was the legislative committee's desire to kind of try to get in each of these sections kind of a priority list of what
Speaking to that.
would be most,
Yes.
like
There
a
you go.
priority list of ranking, because some of these are not as applicable to our area as others.
That's correct. So you want to go back through that real quick, or I know there was a couple that were brought up.
Mr. Bowman, if I may suggest,
Go ahead.
in the interest of time, let's have staff work on it.
Okay.
And then we'll have
I've got some
you,
notes.
the legislative committee, review their work and, get some eyes on it. And then maybe you guys can whittle it down.
We'll do that.
Sounds good.
Is that okay, Mr. Short? We do that? Excellent. Good. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Anybody?
We're good.
Thank you. I'll go back up here.
Bowman,
Okay.
just before you close,
Yep.
one quick final comment, if I may. I want to thank Mr. Bowman for putting some work and effort into this, and I started leaning on him pretty heavily because I said, we want a legislative agenda to present, and we're not going down empty-handed when I go to Richmond, and when we go to Richmond together as a team and what have you. They want to know that we're going to challenge this legislature, and we're going to have plenty of ads. We're going down with our hands out, just like the guys and girls in Northern Virginia. We need money in the story. Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, any matters from the board? Anybody got anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. With that, then.